What's going on, Spitfires? Welcome back to another episode of the Spitfire Podcast. I am your host, Lauren Lemunion, the Spitfire Coach, and I hope that you are enjoying the summer or whatever season we're in when you listen to this. It has been a glorious summer here. We just wrapped up the 4th of July holiday, and thankfully the weather was perfection, unlike Memorial Day where it rained and was cold. So I feel like this is the best gift ever. And you know what would be an even better gift is if you were subscribed on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or Spotify. And if you wanted to leave a review, that would be super awesome too. Thank you so much in advance. So today I want to talk about making decisions for you. And if you are a people pleaser, if you are someone who feels like you're indecisive, like you need to run things by committee to make a decision, this is for you. And you might be thinking, Lauren, what are you going to tell me? You're super decisive and I'm just not you, and you know all these coaching skills, and what am I supposed to do? Well, I'm going to share those with you, and I'm also going to share the insights in working with former people pleasers, because yes, you can be a former people pleaser too. We can shed that label. But first, we need to understand where it comes from. So we all have past beliefs. We all have these experiences in our lives that create a value system. So if you have been in a family where doing for others gives you social capital, meaning you get praise, you get acknowledged, you get recognized, that starts to fill up your piggy bank of self-worth. So if I help my mom with the dishes, or if I'm the babysitter on call, or if I'm the go-to person in my family, I get valued from that label. And over time, it becomes our identity. We become the expected person to do that, whether it works for us or not. And the danger behind that is that we don't even see when it doesn't work for us anymore. Whenever we have a strength, so maybe it's about being of service or being resourceful, whenever it's overused, it will become our greatest weakness. Because it's no longer internally sourced, it's no longer internally created, it becomes externally expected, meaning it's pulling from us. And if you've listened to past episodes, we've talked about the range of engagement in our language. And here's the way to dictate or to understand where it's coming from in you. So there are 4 different categories in the range of engagement. The lowest level is can't, meaning that it is 100% forced from something outside of you. It is pulling you along. You just can't do it. There's no internal power. Right next to it is have to. And with have to, there is very, very little empowerment or power, and it is a lot of force. So I have to do this thing. I have to do this for my family. I have to do this for my boss. It becomes so commonplace in our language that we don't even realize that we are killing our energy and our power. So I have to do this. And right next to it is need to. And need to is usually related to a bigger goal. It's something that we have our eyes set on. It's an outcome that we want to create. So it might be getting a degree. It might be working on a project, or I need to do this report. It might not be something that we like to do, but it's something that when we get it done, it's going to get us somewhere that we want to be. So it's kind of that short-term pain for long-term benefit. And so need to has probably like a 40-60 split, where 60% is coming from outside of us and 40% is coming from us. And at the highest level is this choose to or want to, because this comes from us. This comes from this internal knowing. If you've read Glennon Doyle's Untamed, it is amazing. There's a lot on it. I have been geeking out to it. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. This inner knowing of what's important to you, of what serves you, what makes your heart sing, what opens you wide up to possibility. And so if we aren't clear on why we're doing things, we go on autopilot. We're not even determining the value that they bring to us. We just are expected. We're obligated. And so it usually gets classified in this have to. I have to do this because my family sees me as resourceful. I have to do this because I'm dependable. I have to do this because I want to make other people happy. Well, then the question is, well, what happens when you don't? What's your value? Who are you? And most people don't know who they are without the external validation. I was exactly like this. If you've read my book, Spitting Fire, I talk about this a lot because I was on this path of being all things to all people that I didn't even know who I was. I was creating events. I was showing up for friends. I was showing up for family. I was showing up for my husband. And I was so on this autopilot checkbox zombie quest that I didn't even stop to check into myself of, is this even what I want? Does this even make me happy? And the scariest part is I couldn't even tell you what made me happy. It took a coach to ask me, Lauren, what makes you happy? And I shut down. I broke down and I burst with tears because I had no idea. And so this may open up those aspects of you that you might have been avoiding, that you might not have peered into because, what happens if you're not the people pleaser? You're being selfish. You're being self-absorbed. And the reality is you can't be of full service to others if you don't have a full tank. If you aren't taking care of yourself, you are going to drain the crap out of yourself. And this is where the over-servicing happens. This is where that obligation starts to become resentment. This feeling of I have to do it or else. And we don't even enjoy showing up. We convince ourselves that we do, but we don't want to have to do it every time. We don't want to have to keep tying people's shoes. We want to teach people how to tie their shoes so that they can be empowered to do it themselves. So first, we need to understand where our messaging is coming from. What do we want to do? Are we speaking about ourselves in a can't, a have to, a need to, or a want to? And then the opportunity is, if we're not in that choose to or want to state, how do we start to get it there? So, I want to be of service when. Complete that sentence. My sentence is, I will be of service when I have the capacity and I can be of value. Because not every situation is where I'm needed. Not every situation needs me to dive in. And in fact, if I assume I need to, I'm preventing that person from being empowered, from learning, from growing, from stretching, from building resiliency. I'm preventing that from happening. So they're then going to be resentful of me. Because to them, it says, well, you don't think I'm capable. You don't think I can do this. That's not my intent, but the outcome is this subconscious messaging. You see me as helpless, and that's why I have to do this. There's something so amazing when we can just create space for people to communicate what it is that they need. When they can say explicitly, I would really love a hand with this. And then you get to choose, do I want to do this? Do I have the capacity? Sure, I choose to do this because there's a clear agreement of when it's going to happen, when it's going to end, what the specific task is, what role I'm going to play. But if we operate in this assumption, this vagueness, this ambiguity, we then float in the story. And then we start getting into all of our stress reactions and our back limiting beliefs that have been hiding in the ethers ready to come out. There's so much to unpack here. But whenever we assume that this is the role we have to play, we assume this is how people need us to show up, that's what we float in. So we operate in fact, which is your choice. We operate in fact, which are your values, which is what's most important to you. And then you can make more empowered decisions. Now, there might be some things that you actually have to do. If you're a parent, there are things that you have to do in order to make sure your kids are safe. You might not like changing diapers, but I'll tell you what, you'll like that better than a diaper rash or a trip to the doctors or CPS coming in. That's Child Protective Services. So if you can convert it into a want, which is your value. So I want to provide ultimate care. I provide legacy. I provide learning. I provide a warm and safe place. It makes us go deeper into ourselves versus making it about the surface transaction. And that's what ultimately this is all about. How do we internally drive ourselves rather than seeking out external validation? Because the alternative is we are on this quest and chase for things that are never going to be what we expect them to be. You know, the whole stuff that it's like, go to school, get good grades, get the job, get married, have kids. And then what? Then you get to be happy? How about we start being happy now? How about we look for the things that make us happy, the things that make us fulfilled, the things that we enjoy, and then we can bring people in that align with that. And maybe that means starting a family. Maybe that means finding this awesome career. But the job, the relationship, the children are not going to make you happy. I'm sorry to burst your bubble. If you're not happy to begin with, all these things outside of you are not going to be that magic wand. So this is the time to look in the mirror and ask yourself, what do I need to make me happy? How do I need to start speaking about myself? What labels do I need to shed and drop? What do I want to model into the world? So I hope that this was helpful. I hope that you got some pieces of it. If not, we will keep talking about it because this is a constant theme that I see show up on my sessions time and time again. And if you want to talk about it, if you're like, Lauren, I don't know what you're doing here, like this is some woo-woo stuff, go ahead and hit me up. Lauren@SpitfireCoach.com. We can talk about it. Maybe I'll bring you on a future episode. But for all the Spitfires out there, you keep being awesome.